Alright, so here's your second twin. Hopefully you're doing this. I really hope you are. I want you all to do well. I hope you do. I'm going to move fairly fast because I need to. It's my planning period and I got a lot of stuff to grade. So hit the pause button, okay? Watch it, hit the pause, rewind, pause it, whatever you got to do. Alright, so you need to find the slope of this one. It's in the video 1. Your slope is going to be y2 minus y1. So it's 13 minus 5. And your test will not be as bad as these. It will not be. Sitting over x2 minus x1, so 10 minus 3. Now 13 minus 5 is 8. 10 minus 3 is 7. There's your slope. Now the other thing you need is you have to memorize point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Oh, by the way, you better see 8/7 in your answer. If you don't see 8/7, that's not it. You know, whatever tomorrow, if you find the slope to be 3, you better see a 3x, okay? Anyways, I'm just going to pick this 0.35. Why not? That goes there. That's x1. That's y1. It's really just as simple as plugging stuff in. You just got to know your forms. Y minus 5 equals 8/7 of x minus 3. Now what we do is we distribute that 8 in. Y minus 5 equals 8/7 of x. 8 times the 3 is a 24, and it's negative because it's positive and it's negative, and that's sitting over 7. Now what we're going to do from here is we're going to add 5, because we want y equals mx plus b. So I'm adding 5 to both sides, and I'm not going to spend time talking about how to do this by hand. It's test day, kids. On test day, you take out your trusty TI-84, negative 24/7. Probably should have wrapped that in parentheses, but it's okay if you're just going to add a number to it. And then you press the math key, which is right there under alpha. This comes up. I'm going to press enter. Way down, you know where the enter key is. Twice. 11/7. So this is y equals 8/7 of x plus 11/7. And I know I'm a lefty, so if you got to pause it, you just have to pause it. I can't fix it. I can't write like this. I'm lefty, we curl. It's just what we do. All right, number 2, we're tasked with solving this thing. The absolute value of 4x minus 6 equals 8 plus 2x. The deal is you write two equations after you isolate absolute value, and this one's isolated. So 4x minus 6 equals 8 plus 2x. Or 4x minus 6 equals negative 8 minus 2x. And then we just solve. It's that simple. So I'm going to take away 2x. That's going to give me a 2x. I'm doing opposite. I'm going to add 6. That's a 14. I'm going to divide by 2, and I'm going to get a 7. And I'm not going to show you all the work. You made it to Algebra 2. You better figure it out. The opposite of subtraction is addition. The opposite of subtraction is addition. And we're going to divide by 6. We'll have negative 2/6, which we have to reduce. That's a negative 1/3. So there's your two answers on that one. 3 is domain. Okay. This thing runs forever left, forever right. We talked about this. When you did IXL, you said all real numbers. That's what you said in IXL. We don't. I'm asking, though, for interval notation. That's the use of parentheses or brackets or some crazy combination of the two, stuff like that. Anyways, all real numbers means you travel from negative infinity to positive infinity. And that's your domain. Your range is your values of y. And if you were doing this with inequality notation, you'd say, oh, I'm bigger than negative 8. Y is greater than negative 8. Well, the interval notation for that is that we start at negative 8. I screwed that all up. Still messing it up. I get so stuck on infinity symbols sometimes. And we travel upwards to infinity. Now, here's equality. Equality is a bracket. And you can't touch infinity, so use a set of parentheses. Number 4, if you're working on this one in class, hopefully you caught on that it doesn't fit the graph, so don't worry about it. But your goal is to this. Look like this. Y equals a times the absolute value of x minus h plus k. That's your goal. All right? So you have y equals the absolute value of 5x minus 10 plus 2. Now, it looks close. It is very close. It is. It's very close, but it's not perfect. There's only one x. So what we do is we factor out a 5. So if we pull a 5 from 5x, we get an x. If we pull a 5, which means you divide by 5, you get a negative 2, because negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2, and then add 2. Now, in your notation, this h and k is your vertex. So we have a vertex at 2, 2, because we change. I've talked about this so often. You change it. If it says minus 2, it's positive 2. That's how it works. Just accept that in your heart and be okay with it. So there's 2, 2. Plot it. Now this number out front, we don't call it that. Formally, it's not called slope. Formally, it's called scale factor, but it is going to, for a v, it's going to be functioning as 5 over 1. We're going to rise 5 and run 1, which would actually be off the grid up there. We have to draw a v, kids, so we're going to rise 5 and run 1 the other way. And there's our v, just like that. And that is number 4. Moving along. I graph this system of inequalities. This is where we, the goal is y equals mx plus b. Is not equals. And I'm in a hurry, so I'm just going to save a little bit of time. I'm going to subtract 9x, negative 6y, less than or equal to a negative 9x plus 18. Then I'm going to divide out this negative 6. When you divide by an inequality symbol, you got to flip. Or when you divide by a negative, you got to flip. 9 over 6 is 3 over 2, and it's positive because it's negative over negative. And well, that was an 18. Good. That's minus 3. So put a dot at negative 3. That's my y-intercept. My slope is to rise 3 and run 2. That is a solid line. I need to make sure your test is a solid line, so I put a dash. I'm going to have to make sure everybody misses it. Now, when you were done with this thing, you had a greater than symbol. That means above. So we're going to shade above. And we'll worry about shading when we graph the other one. So we have 2x minus 8y greater than or equal to negative 16. We're going to subtract 2x. And we're going to divide out this negative 8. Anyways, we divided by a negative, so we flip the symbol. 2 over 8 is a quarter. And a negative divided by a negative is positive. So that thing has a y-intercept at 2. And it rises 1 and runs 4. And it looks like this. And it is solid too. I really hope I'm doing the right twin. Anyways, it said shade below. So it's this region of space right here. And there's that one. All right, number 6, solve using elimination. I'm going to attack y. Tomorrow it might be attack x. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double the bottom equation. That means eliminate a variable. That's what it means. It's up to you to decide which one you want to use. But I'm going to double the bottom, and you'll see why in just a second. If I double the bottom, or the second equation, what would happen if I added? Well, if I add down, I won't have any y's left, kids. All I have to do is divide by 4, and I'll get that x is 7. And then it's just as simple as going back in and plugging it into an equation. For some reason, I'm going after the first one. But negative 8 sevens minus 10 y's is 24. If I remember my multiplication tables, that is a negative 56. If I add 56 to 24, which is what I do, I get negative 10y is 80, and I get that y is negative 8. Now, if this thing happens to be multiple choice, it'll be given as an ordered pair. So we have 7, negative 8 is the answer. All right, number 7, solve the system using substitution. I've seen kids do this. Like, you get so accustomed to doing y equals mx plus b that you want to solve for y. This equation right here literally says x is negative 7y. You can just jump it over. And what you did is you solved for x. In a way, you know what x is. You don't know its numerical value, but you know what it is in terms of y. So everywhere I see an x in equation number 2, I can just substitute it in. So twice a negative 7y minus an 8y must be 22. This is going to be a negative 14. That's a negative 8. And when I put a negative 14 and negative 8 together, I get a negative 22. So negative 22y equals 22. And if you don't know what you're doing at that point in time, like seriously, kids, just wake up. Y is negative 1. I don't know why I wrote negative 8. It's negative 1. And I'm going to take that value and put it right there. X is a negative 7 times a negative 1, which is 7. So my ordered pair is going to be 7, negative 1. And moving on, number 8. This one is written wrong. We're still going to do it though, because the algebra used on this is the same as the one tomorrow. Even though the answers we get don't make any sense, you got to know how to do this. So Jack is 5 years younger than Bill. So if Bill was 10, you'd take away 5 years from him to get Jack. You know that. So Jack is literally Bill minus 5. Now, another way of saying that is you could add 5 to Jack. You know, if Jack was 5, well, you just add 5 and you'd have Bill. Jack is 8 years younger than Tom. So Jack is Tom minus 8. Well, conversely, you just say that Tom is Jack plus 8. Because you can just rewrite that in terms of Tom. Now, you've only really written 2 equations because these are identical things. This one and this one are the same. It's the next one that throws kids off. Well, in 7 years, that means that you add 7. Don't be the kid who multiplies by 7. That doesn't work. If I'm going to age 7 years, I'm 40, I'll be 47. I did that through addition. Well, both Tom and Bill age 7 years. They both do. Now, after those 7 years have passed, that's the deal. After those 7 years have passed, Tom is twice Bill's age. So I have to make sure that the 7 years pass before I double. And it's Bill that has to be doubled because Tom's going to be twice his age. You want equality here. So there's the 3 equations that I need. Now, everywhere I see a Tom, I can put in a Jack plus 8. And everywhere I see a Bill, I can put in a Jack plus 5 because the goal is to get to one single variable. So that first equation is Jack plus 8 plus 7 because I replaced that with Jack plus 8 equal to twice. Here's Bill. Bill is Jack plus 5. And then I have that plus 7 left over. I saw Sam distributed this 2 first. I thought that was kind of interesting. There's nothing wrong with it. But, you know, when you do PEMDAS, we talk about it, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, we're strongly encouraging you to do that first. Do what you can first. You're just less prone to make a mistake. Anyways, we double this, we get 2 Jacks plus a 24, and we got Jack plus 15. Now here's the mistake with this one. When I take away a Jack from 2 Jacks, I have a Jack. When I take away 24 from 15, I have a negative 9. That doesn't make a lick of sense, does it? Jack is negative 9 years old, doesn't work. But it's where it is. So Jack is negative 9. It says he's 5 years younger than Bill, which means I add 5. So Bill is negative 4, oddly enough. And Jack is 8 years less than Tom. So I add 8 to Jack and I get negative 1. None of these people actually exist. All right? They're imaginary, I reckon, which is one of the next things we talk about, actually, is imaginary. All right, number 9 is the FOIL method. It was Grant. Grant was having a hard time with this in second period, and I know a lot of kids do, and I'm glad he asked. So Grant, if you're watching this, thank you for actually asking the question. So the acronym here is FOIL. And I'll go over this a second way if you don't understand FOIL. But what we do is we multiply those 2 pieces together. 3x times 6x is 18x squared. Then we have this outside piece, that was f. These are the outside pieces. 3x and a negative 8. That's minus 24x. Then we have the inside pieces. All right, that's 7 times 6x, which is plus 42x. And then we have the 7 times a negative 8, which is minus 56. And we combine our like terms. And we do want things like this written ax squared plus bx plus c. Some kids don't understand why they need, it's like they see standard form and like, hey, I want to be a rebel. Rebels don't do well in math if you don't conform to it. But the middle pieces add up to 18. And then we have the minus 56. Now, what a lot of kids don't realize, and teachers probably don't teach it because they don't want to introduce a level of confusion, is what's actually happening. It's actually the double distributive property. What we're doing is we're basically taking this 3x and we're putting it to both terms. That's all we're doing. So there's where the 18x squared comes from, and there's a minus 24x. And notice what I did is I covered a piece up. So now I'm going to cover up the 3x. I wish I was right-handed so I could write this out, but I'm going to take the 7 to both terms. So I take the 7 to the 6, I get my plus my 42x. When I take the 7 to the negative 8, I get my minus 56. You get the same thing whether you use the acronym or you actually understand what's going on. It's the double distributive property. And there's number 9. Moving on. 10. I got 22 minutes to my next class, so I got to hurry. There's a note here. It says replace f of x with 0. So you have 0 equals 4 times x plus 2 squared minus 12. You're solving for x, kids. So what we want to do is we want to isolate this. The notes you took in class said always isolate the squared piece. So we're going to add 12. 12 equals 4, parentheses x plus 2 squared. This piece is not isolated. I'm going to divide out my 4. 3 equals x plus 2 squared. Commandment 7 on the board tells you how to do this. Counteract powers with roots. The opposite root of a square is literally called the square root. And what they do to each other is they annihilate each other. They are opposite actions. Now, when you're dealing with solving for x, you have to include plus or minus or the frickin' panda dies, okay? So you have this, plus or minus root 3 equals x plus 2, and what you're going to do is you're going to subtract your 2. And you get that x is a negative 2 plus or minus root 3. Notice how I wrote that. I put the number, the whole number first. What we have is we have that x is negative 2 plus the root of 3 or negative 2 minus root of 3. Now this is going to get some of you guys. It wants ordered pairs. You know, what we did is we let y be 0. So the zeros go there. That's where y goes. Negative 2 plus the root of 3 goes here, and negative 2 minus the root of 3 goes there. There's your ordered pair. Those are your x-intercepts. 11, this is one of the easiest problems on the quiz, but we'll see how it goes. It asks for 3 things: the y-intercept, the vertex, and points to the immediate left and right of the vertex. I'm actually going to attack the vertex first because of the form that this thing is in. Your vertex is at 1, 4. We've talked about this. Things in parentheses lie. Change their sign. Trust the other one. So it's actually at 1, 4. Now, something to the left of 1 is 0. Something to the right of 1 is 2. Now, what's cool is the y-intercept happens when x equals 0. So, you know, whenever we do this, we have this. We do. So I'm just going to plug in this 0 because it's going to give me actually all 3 pieces that I need. I'm going to say negative 2 times a 0 minus a 1 squared plus a 4. And kids, you're taking a test. Like, you are taking a test. Nobody has all day for you to sit here and figure this crap out. Just type the darn thing in a calculator and move on with your life. It's 2. I literally typed it in. It's 2. Now, these pieces match. So if that's 2, that's 2. And by the way, here's a 0. That's also 2. Didn't ask you to graph it. Didn't. Just said make the table that you would use to graph. All right, number 12. Here's your goal. You are told that the x-coordinate of a vertex, which happens to be the letter H, is opposite B over twice A. You have been asked to memorize that. Now, opposite of B would be a positive 18, twice an A, so twice a 3. You end up with 18 over 6, which is 3. To find the y-coordinate of the vertex, which is the letter K, we plug that 3 in. It's 3 times a 3 squared minus an 18 times a 3 plus a 5. And Austin Peevahouse, if you're watching this, don't waste your time. You are taking a test. Yes, I'm going to call you out on that crap. You don't have all day. No. Good math students are highly accurate and very quick. So you need to be a little bit of both, kids. I got negative 22. Pretty confident in it. TI-84 did it. I typed it in right. It's probably right. Now, think about standard form, too. There's A. We'll put the 3 there. We're going to put that 3 there. We're going to put that there. We're just plugging into a form. So y is 3 times. What do we have here? We have x minus 3. In this case, t. These were t's. T minus 3 squared. And then minus 22. And there you go. There's your function. 13 is a simple level factoring. There's this understood 1. So we're going to find factors of C that add to B. So we're dealing with 27. 27 has a couple of factors. We've got a 9 and a 3, and that's probably the pair. Because 9 and 3, if you add them together, you get 12. If you say negative 9 and a negative 3, you get negative 12. So that's how it factors. It literally factors as x minus 9 times x minus 3. Done. You can check it with FOIL. Obviously, check with FOIL. Check it with FOIL. But it'll work its way out. 14, you need to put it in STD form. You do ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And what you want to keep x squared positive. Also a Sam Laws thing. He moved x squared to the right. So close, but yet so far. So these pieces are jumping left. Plus 2x minus 15. It's an easy one like 13 is. It's a really easy one. So, factors of 15 that gets you to 2. Negative 15 is a positive 5 times a negative 3. That's your negative 15. Positive 5 minus 3 happens to be 2. It satisfies both requirements. So we have x plus 5 and we have x minus 3. 15, when second period was doing this, I told him I thought it was prime, but I'm just going to walk through the process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a 30 because all 3 pieces are divisible by 30. And some kids like to divide this out and throw it away. It doesn't get thrown away. It just doesn't affect where you cross the x-axis. So that's x squared minus 5x plus 40 equals 0. And here's the problem. Are there factors of 40 that add to negative 5? Well, you got a 4 and a 10. That's no way to get to 5. You got a 2 and a 20. That's not going to do it. You got a 40 and a 1. Not going to do it. You got an 8 and a 5. Not going to do it. This thing is prime. And it can only be solved with the quadratic formula, which is not today's lesson. So, bad question. It happens. Won't be a bad question on the test. So what you do is you need to look at twin 1, number 15. Look at twin 1, number 15. I may change this depending on what class you're in. I already made copies. Oh, you got the rectangle. The rectangle's length is x minus 4 and its width is x plus 6. Its area is known to be 96 square inches. So I know that area is length times width. The area is given as 96, and it must equal x minus 4 times x plus 6. Now, a question like this, you should FOIL. That's x squared minus 4x plus 6x minus 24, still equal to 96. And what we're going to do is we're going to one-side it. So we're going to put a 0 over here. Negative 4x and 6x is plus 2x. And negative 24 minus 96 is negative 120. And you might be thinking, man, there's no way that factors. Oh, yes, it does. Positive 12 times a negative 10 is your negative 120. That's 12x, that's negative 10x, there's your 2x. So we use the cover-up method, and we know that x plus 12 is 0, so we know that x is negative 12. We use the cover-up method here. We know that x minus 10 is 0, so x is 10. Now, only one of those answers makes a lick of sense. It's this one. Because if I throw this up here, I have negative width. It doesn't make any sense. Here's your real answer. Might even be a bonus question. We call this extraneous. I don't know. It's extraneous. Doesn't make a lick of sense. So 17 is about a person locked down in quarantine. They're bored. They make a squirrel catapult. Your first task is to write an equation that models this squirrel's flight path. Height as a function of time is negative 16t squared. A0. Read the text. Initial acceleration. Plus 128t. H0. Read the text. Initial height. Initial height of 8 feet. It's given in the text. Plus 8. Hey, that's easy. Everybody can do that. Number 3, determine how long it takes for a squirrel to reach its max altitude. This happens at a vertex. So I do the x equals opposite b over twice a formula. That's a negative 128 sitting over twice a negative 16. That's a negative over negative, so it's 128 over 32, and that's 4 seconds. It takes 4 seconds for that squirrel to reach max height. Part 3, what is the max height? Well, you plug a 4, the height after 4. That's how this is read. We don't say H4, we say height after 4 seconds. Is what happens when you plug a 4 in. So we plug a 4 in. Now I'm showing you what I'm actually doing here. I'm not going to sit here and waste my time. I'm going to take a negative 16, wrap a 4, square the 4. I know you can't see my keypad, but you've been using these things since you were freshmen. 264 feet in the air. The squirrel got pretty high in the air. All right, 4 is a small bonus when the squirrel hit the ground and live. This happens when your height is 0 feet. Now this is probably going to have to be done with quadratic formula. So we're going to say 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 128t plus 8. Now in yesterday's video, I probably used these legit numbers. I'm not going to today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a negative 8, and you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but there's a reason I'm going to. When you pull numbers, it helps you decide if something can factor. And 8 enters 128. 16 times, I think. 80, 48, yeah. So minus 16t there, and then minus 1. Now, there's no way that thing factors. It's just not possible. So, but the numbers in the quadratic form, they're smaller. So you could use this for A, B, and C, or you can use this for A, B, and C. Now, I guess since y'all are still new to this stuff, we'll just stick with this top one. So x is opposite b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac, all sitting over twice an a. You got to know that. So opposite b would be negative 128 plus or minus square root 128 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 8, all sitting over twice a negative 16. I'm in a hurry. Sorry about the bad handwriting. I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to figure out what's inside that radical. I'm doing x 128 squared minus 4 times a negative 16. Pay attention to signs, too. You got to make sure you type them in. And inside that radical is a 16,896. And this is sitting over negative 32. So I look on my piece of paper and I know I have to take a square root. So I take the square root of that thing. About 129.98. I'm going to store that to x. So x equals negative 128 plus or minus 129.98, sitting over negative 32. And now I'm going to do the two operations. One of them is to take that negative 128, add to it that 129, and then divide by negative 32, and I get negative 600ths of a second. That doesn't make a bit of sense. It's just not the answer. Because we're dividing by a negative, we actually want to take away that answer. Because only a negative divided by a negative is going to give me a positive. Here's your answer, 8.06 seconds. Hopefully the squirrel lives. 18, find k such that the slope between these 2 points is a negative 3/5. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to think about our formula for slope. And we're just going to plug stuff in. Negative 3/5 is your slope. y2 minus y1 is k minus 7. x2 minus x1 is 3 minus a negative 2. And we're going to do the things that we can. 3 over 5 must equal k minus 7 over 5. It's called cross multiplication. That's 5k minus 35, because you have to multiply both pieces. And that would have to equal 15. Then we're going to add 35. 15 and 35 makes 50. We're going to divide by 5 and we're going to get 10. So k is 10. 19, find f of twice g minus 1. That means everywhere you see an x, you plug this in. That's what it means, kids. So we have 2 times 2g minus 1, and that is squared, minus 2 times 2g minus 1. Grant Kelly, you write this twice in FOIL. 2 times 2g minus 1 times 2g minus 1. Distribute, minus 4g plus 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on this. What I'm going to do. I'm going to do that stuff first. That's a 4g squared. That is, take away 2g. Take away another 2g. Plus a 1. I still have this stuff too. Now, I'm not going to show it, but I'm going to combine these terms right here. I'm going to distribute the 2 inside. I would have 8g squared. See, there's negative 4g there. Multiply by 2, minus 8g, plus 2, and I distribute that 2 to the 1. Then I have that minus 4g plus 2. And I'm going to do my last step of combining all terms. I have 8g squared minus 12g plus a 4. It's a lot of work. I hate to use that word. It's not a lot of work, but to kids, man, it is a lot of work. It's not hard work, though. All right, write the following inequality. Write inequalities equivalent to the following. You just think about x being in between here, kids. This is 5 less than x less than 12. This says I'm all values from -7 to infinity, including, because that's a bracket. So x is greater than or equal to -7. -infinity to -3 is going to be that x is less than or equal to -3. -99 to 100, we put the x in the center. Now I'm using equality symbols because these are brackets. -99, 100. This is a super easy question. I hope you don't miss it. You know, like literally YouTube interval notation. You might find a hot chick that'll teach it to you. You'll probably find some middle-aged, fat, bald dude, though, because that's what most math teachers are. So that's probably what you'll find. Find the x and y intercepts of this thing. X-intercept happens when y equals 0. So 0 equals -2 times x minus 3 squared plus 12. It's a lot like the one you did earlier. We're going to take away 12. What we're going to do is we're going to divide out that -2. That's going to give me 6 equals x minus 3 squared. I'm going to counteract squaring by square rooting. The square root of a number is actually always plus or minus, and roots and squares annihilate each other. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3. So x is 3 plus or minus root 6. Now when you talk about your x-intercepts, you're going to do this with ordered pairs. You have a 3 plus a root of 6, and you have a 3 minus a root of 6, and they both happened when y was 0. Then you have your y-intercept. That's easy enough. You let x equal 0. And I'm just going to show that work here. Y equals -2 times 0 minus 3 squared plus 12. If I square this piece in the middle, that's a 9. Times -2 is a -18. Add 12, I get a -6. So my y-intercept happened at 0, -6 because I let x be 0. And there's that guy. Expect to see that guy tomorrow. I expect to see this one too. Without doing any algebra, which of the following ordered triple satisfies the system of equations that I've given? And this is substitution, and I'm not going to show the work here, but if I plug a 3 in there, a 3 in there, and a 3 in there, I'd have 3 minus 3 minus 6, right? Hey, that is -6. So it actually passed the first one. If I plug a 3, 3, and a 3 in here, I'd have 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 3, 2 times 3, which is 6. It failed the second one, so it's not this one. Part of me thinks the answer is C, so I'm just going to check C real quick. If I plug in a C, I have a -5 minus 2 times 3. Okay, I guess I was wrong, wasn't I? Because that is -16. Gone. How about I check D? If I go to the top equation, I have 2 minus a -4 minus 2 12s. Well, it might be this one. Might not be. That's 6 minus 24. Oh, it's not D either. Well, something's going on here. Oh, I screwed up on C, didn't I? Minus a negative. It was that one. I'm going to check all 3 equations. 3 times a -5 plus twice a -5 must be -25, and that passes the test because that's true. And -4 times a -5 plus a -5 minus z, which is 3. Well, that's going to be 20, 15, 12. So yeah, it was C. I just made a mistake when I first did it. Got to be careful on that. Here's radical simplification. Go big or go home on these things. 275 is like $2.75, kids. A quarter enters that. So 275 is 25 times what, 9? No. Yeah, 25 times 9. No, it's not. Ignore me. Really tired. It's 25 times 11. One of those you can take the square root of. You can take the square root of 25 and you'll get a 5. So it's 5 root 11. Can't take the square root of 11. You leave it in there. This one, simplify 36 over 15. Now, I don't know if it's by design or just luck, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify the numbers first. 36 and 15 are both divisible by 3. That's 12 fifths. That's actually done to your advantage. Now, what you do is you think about that as the root of 12 over the root of 5. Actually, you know, ignore me on that. I'm actually going a long way here. That's root 36 over root 15. Root of 36 is 6. You know, this is mathematically correct, but the problem is the radical's location. So we're going to multiply the top and bottom by the root of 15. So 6 times the root of 15 is nothing more than 6 roots of 15. A root of 15 times root of 15 is 15. And there's my answer. And the last one is done. We multiply the top and bottom by the conjugate. And the conjugate of 2 take away a root of 6 is 2 plus a root of 6. So I haven't shown this in class yet, and I'm in a bit of a hurry. So I'm just curious if you actually watch my videos or not. That bottom piece is 2 minus a root of 6 times, notice that I actually messed up. On this particular calculator, I open up a set of parentheses. 2 minus root 6. Close, close. You have to have the same number of opening parentheses as you do closing, times its conjugate, which is 2 plus root 6. Close, close. Hey, look here. The bottom is negative 2. I did no algebra. Your calculator can actually do some of these things the way you want them. So the bottom is a negative 2, and the top is just nothing more than distributive property. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 4 roots is 6. Now, you actually have 3 distinct things. You have this piece, and that piece. We're going to divide those things by negative 2. Negative 4 minus 2 root 6. You can't enter radicals. Don't. There's your answer. There it is. Good luck tomorrow. I would like to pass you. I really, really, really would like to pass you. So please pass the test tomorrow.